counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Neufeld, Mr. Douglas, people represented by Ms. Clark and Mr. Darden. The jury is not present. Counsel, is there anything we need to take up before we ask the jury to join us? Mr. Cochran.
Your Honor, there's an even quicker manner. There's another attorney here who's representing Marguerite Simpson Thomas. There was a bench warrant issue and held until today, and it's my understanding Mr. Darden and that attorney whose name escapes me have agreed on May 5th.
May 5?
May 5.
Cinco de Mayo?
Yes.
All right. Bench warrant, that date agreeable to your calendar, counsel?
Yes, that'd be fine. Thank you.
All right.
Your
Bench
Honor.
warrant will continue to be held, issued and held to that date.
Thank you.
Thank you, counsel.
Address the court, Your Honor.
Mr. Cochran, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Your Honor, yesterday there was a witness called by West Tech, and in the course of the proceedings, much was made of the security system at Mr. OJ Simpson's home. And as the court knows, in this case, there are a number of people watching in, and we received a number of calls from people who were concerned, some of whom were even in state prison, about knowing about Mr. Simpson's security system. And I wanted to indicate for the record that due to this testimony regarding West Tech, Mr. Simpson's security system has now been totally changed, and there are armed guards on the property. I mention this because we always have concern for security. The court knows there are still occupants of that home, and I think it's important that everyone know that at his own expense, Mr. Simpson has done this, and he has a strong desire to not have his property invaded or intruded, and that his rights of privacy are protected, and he has paid out of his own pocket to have that entire system revamped and reconfigured as of last night. So I guess it's kind of a little burglars beware, if the court pleases.
All right. Thank you, counsel. Thank you. All right. Mr. Darden, good morning. Are you ready to proceed with your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else we need to take up before we invite the jurors to join us? All right. Deputy Magner, let's have the jurors, please. Gentlemen, record should reflect that we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Mr. Darden, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
It's Friday.
Yes, it is Friday. Thank you, Your Honor. The people called Charles Kale.
All right, Mr. Kale, would you come forward, please?
Sir, can you please raise your right hand? You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the trial not being in the court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please have a seat with witness stand and state and spell your first and last name for the record.
My name is Charles Kale, C-A-L-E.
Good morning, sir. Mr. Kale, on June 12 and June 13, 1994, did you live in Brentwood?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And during the month of June 1994, were you familiar with the defendant's, or rather the location of the defendant's home at 360 North Rockingham?
Yes, sir.
Had you been to that residence before?
I'd been by it, had been on the property on a holiday, something of that sort.
Okay. And are you acquainted with the defendant, OJ Simpson?
We've seen each other in the neighborhood, and I know him from passing. And
Okay. Did you own a dog on June 12?
yes, sir, I did.
Okay.
Still do.
Okay. And directing your attention to the morning following the murders of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown, and this will be Monday, June 13, 1994. On that date, at approximately 7 o'clock in the morning, were you on Rockingham?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. Were you in a car?
Yes, sir.
Were you alone?
No, I was having somebody drive with me to the airport to take my car back home.
Okay, so you were en route to the airport?
Correct.
Okay. And on that day, Monday, June 13, at 7 a.m. in the morning, did you drive down Rockingham?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you pass the defendant's residence at 360 North Rockingham?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, from which direction were you driving?
I was driving from north to south.
Okay. So you were, just write that. And as you approached the defendant's residence, did you have to pass through the intersection at Ashford?
Yes, sir.
And did you pass through that intersection?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you've been at that intersection before at Rockingham and Ashford, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And I take it that you passed through the intersection on your way down to Sunset Boulevard?
That is correct. That's
And is there a path or a course that you usually take as you drive down to Sunset?
yes, sir. There is.
Do you usually pass through the intersection at Rockingham?
Usually, I would turn left if I were going to be going east on Sunset to go across to Cliffwood, and turn left at Cliffwood because there's a light, and you can't turn left onto Sunset from Rockingham if you're going down that way. There's no left turn sign.
Okay. Now, do I understand you to say that you would usually turn left at Ashford?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you turn left at Ashford that Monday morning?
No, sir.
And why not?
Because I saw a black and white patrol car, police car, parked in the street just east of Rockingham on Ashford, between the corner and the gate in the entrance into Mr. Simpson's home on Ashford.
So you couldn't turn left?
Could have turned left and gone around, but it would have been, we had to go out of the way or off into the left lane.
Okay. And so did you continue then south on Rockingham?
Yes, sir, we did.
Did you pass the defendant's gate, the gate to his residence at 360 North Rockingham?
Yes, sir, I did.
And as you did so, did you notice a vehicle at all?
I did. I noticed the white Ford Bronco.
And where was the white Ford Bronco when you first saw it that Monday morning?
It was just to the north of the driveway, the Rockingham driveway, parked at kind of a strange angle with the rear out from the curb a little bit more than normal.
Did you pay particular attention to the Bronco?
Yes, sir, I was surprised to see it, and so I noticed it.
Okay. Why were you surprised to see the Bronco at that time?
Well, very seldom, if ever, had it been parked there. In fact, seldom, if ever, were any cars parked on the Rockingham side of the street as I went along from the past. And I noticed that. I noticed that it was parked at sort of a strange angle. I mean, you could tell it was out. The rear wheels were out a little bit. And also, I had not noticed it the prior evening.
You had not noticed the Bronco parked on Rockingham the prior evening?
That is correct.
Okay. Were you outside the prior evening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This would be Monday, or rather Sunday night, June 12th.
Sunday evening, June 12th.
And why were you out Sunday evening, June 12th?
Well, I had taken my dog for a walk. I had been packing to get ready to go to the trip early the next morning, and I took the dog out for a short walk and had been walking on Rockingham. And when I was walking, I hadn't seen the Bronco.
Okay. Now, what time was it, if you recall, that you walked your dog Sunday evening?
About 9:30, 9:45 period.
And so during this time period of 9:30 to 9:45, you say you didn't see the Bronco on Rockingham?
Yes, sir. I did not see the Bronco on Rockingham.
Okay. Now, from which direction were you walking with your dog?
I was walking from north to south.
North to south on Rockingham.
That is correct. And then I returned and walked back south to north.
Did you ever pass the defendant's home at 360 North Rockingham? That is Sunday night?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. How close did you come to the defendant's gate located on Rockingham Sunday night?
I would estimate about 60 yards, probably.
Now, you mentioned a moment ago that seldom, if ever, have you seen the Bronco parked on Rockingham.
That is correct.
Have you seen the Bronco parked at other locations?
Yes, sir, on Ashford on occasion.
Have one moment, Your Honor.
Certainly.
I am missing Mr. Fairtlow at this moment in time.
Yes. Just proceed with the
Sure.
normal photographs?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to proceed with the normal photographs and just do it the old-fashioned way?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Kale,
Yes, sir.
the time you just indicated, you just told us that you were out at around 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. Sunday evening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
Should be right there.
oh,
Certainly. Mr. Darden.
okay. You indicated that you were out around 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. Sunday night.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how is it that you arrived at that time? That is the 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. time.
Well, I had come back earlier in the evening with one of my children, and we'd had dinner, and then I had started to pack for my trip the next morning, put my materials together to go on this trip. I know that I came back and went to bed shortly, about 10 o'clock or very shortly thereafter, because I had to get up early the next morning. And I know that when I got done with the packing and before I went to bed, I went out for a short walk, and that's the best estimation I can have, is about between 9:30 and 9:45.
How certain are you that the Bronco was not parked near the gate at Rockingham that Sunday evening?
I'm very certain.
Harris assist you with that?
I have a photograph here, an aerial photograph, and you can mark people's next.
157. You know, just take it out and use it on the Elmo? All right, can you see your monitor there, Mr. Kale? Yes, sir. All right. Mr. Darden.
looking at that photograph, Mr. Kell, can you indicate for us the point, or rather the closest point that you came to the defendant's gate on Rockingham?
Well, I just have to align myself here. It was in the area of, as you look at Rockingham, about a little farther than halfway up on the top to bottom line here. You see there's something that's sort of red, a vehicle of some sort that's red, and then, which would be on the east side of the street, and then if you come across diagonally, there's a car, looks like a car, a lighter colored car, on the west side of the street.
Mr. Kell, we're going to place an arrow on the screen. If you will, please direct the arrow.
Well, okay, bring the arrow north on Rockingham, farther, and now go to the right there. So a line from that vehicle across to the left to the vehicle on the west side of Rockingham down here.
So you are on the opposite side of the street.
No, that line in there, the right, going all the way to the corner, right in there, that area.
Right there. Okay, can we come back and just place the arrow?
I would say that would be that's the general area, not all the way to the corner, but
Okay, can we come back and place
past the driveway on the right for the house on the north side of the street.
All right, so you're on the west side of the street, is that correct?
I was walking in the street, not just necessarily on the dog sort of goes back and forth, and there.
It's in,
At the time, there wasn't really very much traffic on Rockingham.
Now, when was the first time that you were interviewed by the police, Mr. Kell?
I would say it was in February, January, I think. I don't know the exact date, but it was in, I believe, in January of this year.
And did you contact the police?
They contacted me.
Okay. Now, you do live in the area, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you would prefer not to have your address published, I take it?
That is correct.
Now, when you walked down Rockingham that Sunday evening, were you able to see Ashford Street?
Well, excuse me. Bits and pieces of Ashford Street, because as you can see from the picture, there are a lot of trees, and if you walk down Rockingham, the trees really break up an unimpeded view of Ashford. You can see parts of Ashford.
Okay. Did you see the defendant's Ford Bronco parked on Ashford Street that Sunday night?
I don't recall seeing it on Ashford, no, sir.
Thank you, that's all.
Mr. Shapiro?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Your Honor, before we begin, when we approach the reporter online.
With reporter?
Yes.
Thank you, counsel. Proceed.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Mr. Kale.
Mr. Shapiro?
Mr. Kale, you said today that the police called you and a report was taken. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was, would it refresh your memory if that report is dated January the 25th?
That sounds as I was going to say, late January, early February.
And they called in response to the fact that you had called someone else and asked to speak to someone regarding this incident. Isn't that correct?
No, that's not entirely correct, no.
Have you seen the report in this case?
I saw it very briefly this morning.
Let me give you an opportunity. Well, let me just ask you. The report is a page and one paragraph.
Yes,
And was that report, when you had a chance to review it, accurate?
I took a very short, brief look at it. I thought it generally seemed accurate.
Do you know a person by the name of Jay Gardner?
I do,
Is that Jeff Gardner?
that is.
And who is that?
He's a friend.
What does he
He's
do?
also a neighbor in the Brentwood Park.
What does he do?
He's in the real estate business.
And did you call him about this Bronco?
We talked about the Bronco.
And did he tell you he would call the police, call a commander on your behalf?
He told me that he might be talking to somebody from the police.
And as a result of that, you got a call.
That is correct.
Nobody came to your house on June the 12th to ask you what you had observed. Isn't that correct?
On June the 12th,
Of 1994.
that's Sunday?
Yes.
Sunday night, no.
What about June 13th? Anybody come to your house to ask you what had happened?
I left for Canada on a flight at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Did the police come to your house to talk to your wife, family, or inquire whether anybody at your residence had any knowledge of events that took place at the Simpson residence?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you talk to your wife?
Yes,
Did she ever tell you that she had been contacted by the police?
Oh, well, but he's already testified he's not aware of any contact.
And I know you don't want to give your residence location, and we will respect that. Can you tell us where you live in proximity to Mr. Simpson?
I live within, certainly within a quarter of a mile of Mr. Simpson, less than a quarter of a mile.
And up until the time that you called the police, well, that you called your friend and the police called you back, no one...
I didn't, excuse me, I didn't call him, I was talking with him.
You talked to your friend?
Yes.
And as a result of that, you were called by the Los Angeles Police Department. No one had come to take any statements from you, even though you live within a quarter of a mile of Mr. Simpson.
That is correct.
And what attempts did you make to report what you had observed to the police prior to January 25th of 1995?
I had made none.
What is your profession, sir?
I'm a self-employed private investor.
Do you have any legal background?
Yes, sir, I do.
What legal background do you have?
Oh, you can answer the question.
I am a law school graduate. I have practiced law in the state of California.
And is it your testimony that you would not know how to contact the police to report evidence that may be relevant to a murder case?
Objection, you never said that. I'm sorry, man.
Sustained.
Did you tell, you talked to an officer by the name of Crotsley, C-R-O-T-S-L-E-Y, on January the 24th. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
And at that time, are you aware that he reported
Objection.
that you did?
Seriously. Objection. Counsel's going to read something to the witness. I'd like an opportunity to hear what he's going to read.
Sustained.
Have you ever reported to the police that you didn't know how to contact them to give them information?
That never was an issue. The answer is no.
Let me show you a copy of the report that was prepared by Mr. Crotsley and see, yeah, this is what you just showed him this morning. May we have that, please?
I directed you both to direct your comments to the court. All right,
Yes.
let's proceed.
Your Honor, may we approach, because apparently I do not have the complete reports.
He does not have the complete reports with him, Your Honor. There's a distinction.
All right, with the court, please. See.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Let me give you as much time as you need, sir, to read this report.
I've taken a look at it, Mr. Shapiro.
Have you had enough time to read it?
I've read it. Excuse me.
Do you see if there are any errors or omissions in that report?
Well, as I told you before, I don't think there was an issue of my not knowing who to contact in the first paragraph.
No, what is the error in the first paragraph?
He said it says in the sentence that Mr. J. Gardner stated that a friend, Charlie Cale, had information regarding the Bronco but did not know who to contact. I don't know what Mr. Gardner stated, but so I don't know whether that's, I guess that's somebody else's comment.
Let me just ask you on that point, then we'll move on. Did you ever tell Mr. Gardner that you had information but you didn't know who to contact?
No, I don't think in that sense I did. We discussed the issue that was in the fourth paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, where some comment had come up on the news that said that there was a.
What's the objection? Overruled. You can finish your answer, Mr. Cale.
that had been reported in the news that someone was stating that the Bronco had been parked other than on Rockingham, and that it had been moved onto Rockingham by the police or by somebody, or that it had been changed its location. And Mr. Gardner and I were talking, and I said I just had heard this, and he raised the question with me, and I said that's not the case because I saw the Bronco on Monday morning when I went to the airport, and I had taken a walk the night before, and it hadn't been there. So that's how the whole subject came. So you ask also if I knew how to go get a hold of anybody in June. In June, there was never an issue that I was aware of about where the Bronco was or was not parked.
I take it that you know that there was a preliminary hearing in this case.
Yes, sir.
And I take it you know that that was televised.
Yes, sir.
Did you see any part of it?
I don't think I saw more than 5 or 10 minutes of the whole hearing.
Did you?
On the news, perhaps, but I did not watch it.
And did you see any news reports of any issue regarding a Bronco?
I saw news reports that indicated that there was a Bronco parked there and there was an issue of what was in it or on it or things of that sort.
So you knew as early as July of 1994 that the Bronco was at least an issue in this case, being a lawyer, did you not?
The Bronco was an issue. I don't know that it was an issue. I knew it was an element in the case.
And you're a reader of newspapers, are you not?
Yes.
You read about this case in the newspapers, did you not?
I read it in the newspapers, yes, sir.
And you were aware of something that's been referred to as a low-speed follow involving a Bronco.
Overruled at this point.
I'm familiar with that.
And so, as a lawyer, would it be fair to say that you could conclude that the Bronco was an issue in this case?
I don't practice law, but as someone who used to, I would say that the issue of the Bronco was in the case. However, there was nothing that I had seen or not seen about the Bronco that I thought was any issue until the latter part of January.
Being in close proximity to the Rockingham residence of Mr. Simpson, did you find it unusual that no one contacted you, whether you heard any unusual noises on June the 13th?
No, sir. Where we are is far enough away and with trees that I don't think that it would have been on anybody's mind to necessarily ask if we heard strange noises where we were.
What about vehicles that might be going by?
My answer would be the same.
What if you were outside your residence walking your dog, as you sometimes do? Would that be something that you think the police might want to know?
Sustained.
Are you familiar with the vehicles of all your neighbors?
Not all of them.
Are you familiar with all the vehicles that were parked on Rockingham when you went to the airport that morning on June the 13th?
I am familiar with the two that I saw, one on Ashford, which was the black and white, and the other was the Bronco, and to my recollection, there weren't any others parked.
There were no other vehicles on Rockingham that
Not
day?
that I recall.
What about the night before? What vehicles were parked on Rockingham?
On Sunday night,
Yes.
I saw none.
Have you ever seen any other Broncos at Mr. Simpson's residence or in the area of, strike that, in the area of Rockingham and Ashford, have you ever seen any other Broncos other than Mr. Simpson's Bronco?
I've seen other Broncos, yes, sir.
And you've seen them parked in many different locations, have you not?
Seen them parked on Ashford.
Have you seen Mr. Cowlings in the area of Mr. Simpson's residence?
Yes, sir, I have.
And have you seen his Bronco parked on Rockingham?
Not that I recall.
Is there
I've seen his Bronco parked on Ashford, I know.
Is there something in particular about noting where a Bronco is parked 8 months ago that is important to you?
I don't really quite understand that question, Mr. Shapiro.
Have you watched any part of this case on television, any part of this trial?
Very little.
So you've watched some of it.
Very little.
What have you watched?
I've seen news clips from the news when I watch the regular news. That's really about all.
Have you seen any witnesses testify in this case?
I've seen saw Detective Furman briefly, and I don't know the detective, I don't even know his name, was there in the gentleman sitting behind counsel. I saw,
Indicating Detective Lang.
and I probably saw 2 or 3 minutes in total of Ms. Lopez.
And you were aware that all 3 of those people gave testimony regarding the Bronco, are you not?
Sustained. Be stricken, jurors to disregard.
I'm sorry, are you aware that Detective Furman gave information regarding the Bronco?
I really don't know what information Detective Furman gave about the Bronco, if he did.
About Detective Van Adder?
I did not see Detective Van Adder at all, even on the news that I can recall, so I don't know what he talked about.
What about Detective Lang?
I don't remember anything that he talked about. I just remember seeing him.
Can you tell one Bronco from another?
If you have, that's a question I don't know how to answer, Mr. Shapiro.
Yes or no?
I don't think that's a question that's susceptible to answering yes or no. If you have two identical Broncos, I couldn't tell which was which. I can tell you that I recognized a Bronco when I saw it.
Did you recognize it as Mr. Simpson's Bronco, or did you recognize it as a white Bronco?
I recognized it as a white Bronco.
And the closest you got to the Simpson residence is where you've put this reddish-orange marker on the Elmo?
That's my best recollection. Yes, sir. It was in that general area.
And it could have been before 9:30 that you were walking your dog, isn't that correct?
Don't think it was.
But you're not sure.
I'm very sure.
You're very sure.
That
Do you
it was
walk
in the
your dog-
9:30 to
wait,
9:45 timeframe. That's the best estimate I can give you, sir.
Well, you just used the term the best estimate, and you're very sure.
Yes. I don't think those are inconsistent.
So you would, in your definition, your best estimate is being very sure of something.
When you have a period of time within certain parameters, I'm very sure of my estimate, that it's in that range of time.
Could it have been 9:25?
I don't think it was. Is it possible? I guess it's possible. I don't think so, though.
Do you walk your dog at a regular time every evening?
No, sir, I do not.
Do you walk your dog every evening?
No, sir, I do not.
Do you walk your dog every day?
No, sir. I walk the dog sporadically on occasion.
Did you walk, when was the last time you walked your dog before the evening that you've testified to?
I don't have a specific date. I walked it within that week, I know.
What cars did you see on Rockingham when you walked your dog within that week?
I don't remember that.
How far were the rear wheels of the Bronco, I think your words were, jetting out into the roadway? Have you heard that? Let me ask you this first. Have you heard that term used in this case by anyone else?
No, sir, I have not.
Have you read that term in any of the newspaper articles?
No, sir, I have not.
Have you seen it on any newspaper clippings? Any news clippings?
No, sir.
How far was the rear end jetting out?
I would say, again, I was driving by in the car, and I was, appeared to me to be 18 inches from the curb, with the nose, the front right wheel closer to the curb.
Now, you're aware that there is a concrete gutter area and then asphalt on the street, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How wide is the concrete gutter area?
I don't know.
Could you
6,
give-
8 inches, I would assume.
So the tires then were more than 10 inches to a foot, the rear tires on the asphalt?
I really can't say. Again, we were driving by. I looked and I saw that the car was out at an angle which wasn't parallel to the curb. I didn't stop and look.
Well, you just gave testimony that was 18 inches away from the curb.
I said that was my estimate. I believed it looked like it was about 18 inches from the curb. The nose wheels were close against the curb, and the rear wheels were out from it.
And if the concrete area is 6 to 8 inches, then by simple, isn't that what you testified?
I guess when you say concrete, you mean the curb comes down onto the street?
Is there a concrete gutter area on Rockingham?
There's a curb, and then the curb necessarily makes a gutter when it, I guess you'd say, when it comes to the street.
And my question to you is, how wide is the gutter?
Or do you understand the question?
I really don't, Your Honor.
Describe the curb, the gutter area, and the asphalt on Rockingham adjacent to the Simpson property.
I believe that there is a concrete curb. The curb goes down to the street and then out some inches, which I think is what I said, 6 to 8 inches from the vertical. And at that point, the asphalt starts.
So your testimony then is if the car is 18 inches out onto the asphalt,
18 inches from the vertical curb.
are you from the vertical curb?
Yes, sir.
So that it would be on about 10 inches of asphalt.
Those numbers, yes, sir. I'm not saying that well, if you take the numbers, that would appear to be correct.
And those are the numbers you've given us.
That's the numbers I've given.
Were you driving the car on the way to the airport?
No, sir, I was not.
But you were on the passenger side.
That is correct.
Did you see any other vehicles in the area of Rockingham and Ashford other than the one black and white police vehicle and the white Bronco?
I have no recollection of seeing any others. It really wasn't an issue. I mean, we were going to the airport. I saw the police. I said, let's go straight. I saw the Bronco, and we continued.
You saw the police or you saw a police
The
vehicle?
police vehicle, the black and white.
Did you see any policemen?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you see anyone guarding the Bronco at 7 o'clock in the morning?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you see the Bronco cordoned off in any way to look like it was being secured?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you see the house cordoned off as if it was a crime scene area?
I don't have any recollection of that.
With the court's permission, put exhibit 1037 on the Elmo. I want to direct your attention to the photograph that's being displayed.
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize that vehicle?
That appears to be the white Bronco parked on Rockingham.
Do you know who owns that vehicle?
I believe that that's Mr. Simpson's vehicle, but it's I'm not positive of that. I haven't seen the registration. It's the white Bronco.
And what is it about that vehicle that leads you to believe that it's Mr. Simpson's from this photograph?
Well, it appears that that's Rockingham, and the car is parked with the rear wheels out. That's all I can say.
Well, how does that identify it as being Mr. Simpson's Bronco?
Well, that's the white Bronco, whatever the white Bronco was that I saw.
And would you say that the wheels are in the same position you saw as you were driving by as a passenger on the way to the airport?
That looks correct.
And you would say that the back tire is 10 inches onto the asphalt?
Well, looks like the outside part of the tire is a couple of inches on the asphalt, and the front tire is closer in.
And you describe that as jutting out and being very unusual.
I think I said it jutted out.
Would you describe that as being unusual?
I don't think that's a paragon of parallel parking, but is it parked illegally? I don't know. The front wheels are in and the back wheels are out farther. That's what I saw when I was on the other side.
And how much time elapsed when you passed by that vehicle?
What point?
At the time you were on the way to the airport?
We slowed down when we came to Ashford, thinking we would turn onto Ashford. I said, let's go straight. So we passed it accelerating from 5 or 10 miles an hour to 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour. We just drove by in passing. probably saw it a couple of seconds.
Who was driving you?
A young man by the name of Joel,
How do you spell that?
Joel.
And did you mention anything to this individual about walking your dog the night before? Oh, well,
Not about walking the dog. I mentioned to him, I said, that's strange. The car is parked there, and it wasn't last night.
when was the last time you talked to this man?
Probably yesterday.
He works for you?
He does on occasion, yes.
In what capacity?
He drives.
Your chauffeur?
I wouldn't have it raise it to that dignity in the sense that he's not there all the time, but he just drives and does errands.
Are you aware that Mr. Cowlings has a key to the Rockingham gate?
Sustained.
Have you ever seen anybody enter the Simpson residence from the Rockingham gate?
I don't know that I ever have seen anybody enter from the Rockingham gate. I've seen people come out from the Rockingham gate. I don't recall that I have or have not.
Have you ever seen Mr. Cowlings enter from the Rockingham gate?
No,
Have you ever seen Miss Barbieri enter from the Rockingham gate?
I have not.
Do you know who she is?
I only know by name and reputation. I don't know her personally.
By name and reputation?
That she was a friend of Mr. Simpson's.
How do you know that?
I've heard that.
Where?
People have talked about it.
Certainly.
Paula Barbieri has a white Bronco.
No, sir, I don't know anything about Miss Barbieri other than what I just said.
You are aware that Mr. Cowlings has a white Bronco, do you?
Yes, sir, I am.
And do you know that the only way that an outsider can gain entrance to the Rockingham property, to Mr. Simpson's residence, is through the Rockingham gate?
Excuse me? Would you?
Sustained.
Is there anything in particular about the Simpson residence that causes you to focus on it?
Well, it has a.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
Yes. Mr. Simpson is a celebrity. Certainly I think one of the most well-known people in the neighborhood. Also, it's on the corner where you either going south or, either going west or east on Sunset. If you're going to go to Sunset, you go by Mr. Simpson's house. It's distinctive. It's Christmas lighted brightly. I mean, I think it's a focal point.
And you said it was lighted brightly. So you can, by walking by, see that house and focus in?
I said at Christmas.
Oh, at Christmas.
Yes.
What about normally? Isn't there a halogen light on the corner of Ashford and Rockingham? Street lamp?
There's a street lamp at the corner of, yes, sir.
And doesn't that illuminate the front of the Simpson property?
Not the light I know there are lights on the property.
Overruled. He can answer.
There are lights on the property. There's a blue, if that's a halogen light, and there's some other lights on
The property is very well lit at night, is it not?
Thanks. Want to rephrase the question?
Are you aware of the lighting on the property at night?
what you can see from the street.
And what can you see from the street?
There's one of the trees I know is uplit on Ashford with I'm not sure if halogen is the blue light, with a bluish green light, as I recall. There are some lights that you can see around the, again, that there is some light around the driveway, and that's really all I can recall, that there's some lights in the back by the pool area sometimes that you see.
On the night before you left for the airport, did you see a limousine in the area of Ashford and Rockingham?
No, sir, I did not.
If there was a limousine parked outside the Rockingham gate at about 9:30, would you have been able to see it?
Overruled.
I believe so.
And if there was a limousine driving up Rockingham to Ashford, would you have been able to see it?
Overruled. You can answer the question.
I believe if it had had its headlights on, I would have.
And if there was a limousine parked across the street from Mr. Simpson's residence on Ashford at 9:25 to 9:35, would you have been able to see it?
Sustained. That's the form of that question.
Regarding a limousine, did you ever see any limousine parked along Ashford that night while you were walking your dog?
Overruled.
I did not see a limousine parked on Ashford when I was walking the dog.
And you're a pretty meticulous person, and you're very, very observant of things, are you not?
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know. My wife doesn't think I'm as meticulous, perhaps.
Join the club.
I try to be observant when I'm out walking at night.
Did you see any people walking in the neighborhood when you were out at 9:30?
No, sir, not that I recall at that time.
You recall seeing a limousine driver outside of Ashford smoking a cigarette?
Overruled.
No, sir.
Look, hold on. The jury's heard the testimony of both witnesses. They know they can put the two testimonies together. All right.
About a Bentley. Did you see any Bentley at the Rockingham property at 9:35?
No, sir. I didn't look into the property.
Pardon?
I didn't. I didn't look in the gate.
Did you see any small foreign vehicle on Ashford at all that entire evening when you were out?
I did not see any on Ashford, no, sir.
You didn't see any car. Did you see a Nissan Z on Ashford?
I think I said before, I don't recall seeing any cars on Ashford.
When you reviewed this report that I've shown you, and you see where it indicates that,
Objection.
did you tell the police officer?
Calls for hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
I would ask that Mr. Shapiro be the record to give me an opportunity to see what he intends to read to the record.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Kale,
Yes, sir.
did you previously tell a police officer who took a report from you that you went to bed at 10:30 that evening?
Objection, that misstates the report, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I told the police officer that I recall getting home to try to get in bed sometime after 10, between 10 and 10:30. It says here that I said 10:30 because I wanted to be in bed early because I had to get up early the next morning. I don't know whether I told him I was in bed at 10:30 or 10:15 or 10:10.
Do you know what time you were in bed?
I know I was in bed by 10:30. I think I was probably in bed earlier than that, actually.
Are you as sure of the time you were in bed as sure of the time you were walking your dog?
I'm sure that I was in bed between 10:15 and 10:30. I think I may well have been in bed before 10:15, but I wasn't in bed at 10.
You would agree that it's very difficult to be precise on times unless you're looking at a clock for a specific reference. Isn't that true?
I think that that is true.
Thank you. I just have a moment.
Putting up People's 157,
Yes.
157A. Yes. 157A. Madam Reporter. 157A, this exhibit.
Let's see if we can get it up on the Elmo. Can we put that on the Elmo, Your Honor?
It appears to be.
On the big screen here? There we go. Mr. Kale, how far is your house from the red line you've drawn?
Objection.
You can tell us in distance. Oh, well, what I'm interested in probably is how long it would take to walk from his yard, walking his dog to that location,
That's precisely the point, Your Honor.
knowing the particular idiosyncrasies of this particular dog.
Walk with the dog, it would take me 3 or 4 minutes
What's the distance?
depending upon what the dog was doing.
What's the distance?
I could, without the dog, I could walk it in probably 2 minutes.
What is the distance in, you gave us before a distance of a quarter of a mile
Well-
from your residence to the Simpson residence. What's the distance from your residence to the red line?
Well, as I said before, I live within a quarter of a mile. It's less than a quarter of a mile. I mean, I don't know, Your Honor, do you want me to tell him in numbers of specific yards? And
No, I think walking it in 2 minutes is the material issue.
I mean, it's less, with the dog, it could be, again,
Would you trace the route that you walked your dog and directing the arrow on the Elmo? Please.
That's not particularly relevant at this point. The route as to how he got there. The issue is how far down Rockingham did he get? How close to the Rockingham residence in the Bronco did he get? That's the issue.
Would you indicate, thank you, Your Honor, on the Elmo, where you believe, where the Bronco was when you saw it on the 13th?
Is this the full view, Mr. Harris?
again, it's difficult because of the definition and the angle here, but the closest I would say, and again, I don't know where the driveway comes out, but you see on Rockingham, just above the border of the photograph, there are two, looks like two vehicles, sort of whitish vehicles. And it would be, again, I'm having a hard time just getting the exact reference to where the Rockingham driveway would be, but it would appear to me that it would be the southernmost of those two vehicles. That's the general location.
And how far in distance is that location from the distance that you walked your dog closest to the Simpson residence?
The closest I got was in the general area of that red line, and as I said before, I thought it was probably about 60 yards.
Have you ever measured that off?
No, sir, I have not.
Is that just an estimate, just a guess or an estimate?
That would be my estimate.
So we're precise, if you could direct Mr. Harris to circling the vehicle where you believe the Bronco was.
Well, subject to my problem of not being able to see where the line of the driveway is, and it was parked immediately, to the north of the driveway, it appears to me, with that little caveat or exception, that it's the location is the lower of the, I see this little mark is marking, I would come down a little bit, and now that to the right of that. It's, now up onto that vehicle. That vehicle's, I mean, I can't really even tell if that's a vehicle or a truck, or I don't know what it is, but it looks like there's something parked there, and that would be where I believe the Bronco was parked the next morning.
Well, is this a correct indication of where you're trying to establish
Yeah,
that
I'm trying
location?
to, yes, sir. And that's, I'm assuming that that is to the north of the driveway, the Rockingham driveway. I can't see the Rockingham driveway on the photo.
Did you receive a call from a member of my office, Mr. Pat McKenna?
I received a call from somebody at your office whose name McKenna sounds correct. I didn't take the name down, or didn't get
How many, did you talk to him?
I talked to him, yes, sir, I did.
On how many occasions?
I talked to him once, just very briefly.
What date was that?
That was the day before yesterday, I believe.
You sure of that?
I believe so.
I'm just asking you, are you sure of that? Or are you just guessing?
No. Today is Friday. He called me Wednesday afternoon.
And where were you when he called you?
I was at my office.
And did he ask to have an opportunity to speak to you about your observations?
He said that he worked for the defense team and was an investigator, and he had seen my name from the district attorney's list, and he hoped to have a chance to talk to me at some point. I told him that I was leaving then. I didn't feel very well, and that we could talk later.
You could talk later?
We did not talk later.
But you told him you could
I said
talk later.
we could, let's call back later.
And did you tell him when to call back later?
You know, I said I'm leaving now. I said let's talk like maybe next week.
Next week,
I think that was what I said to him.
after your testimony.
I did not know at the time that I was going to be testifying then.
Did you have his number?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you have my number?
I received your number last night.
Did you receive my home number?
Yes, sir.
And did you get a request that I would like to talk to you before you testified?
Yes, I did.
Did you call me back?
No, I did
Thank you.
not.
Nothing.
Mr. Darden?
Mr. Kell, is there some reason that you did not call Mr. Shapiro back last night?
Well, I received a call from a mutual friend sometime after 8 o'clock in the evening. I had really not been feeling well, as I had explained, and I did not know that I was going to be necessarily testifying today, and I didn't really think at 8:15 I needed to call him back. I didn't feel up to it.
And did you attempt to explain this to Mr. Shapiro this morning?
Yes, sir, I did.
In fact, we dragged you out of your sick bed today, didn't we?
Yeah. Yes.
You've testified that you were out on Rockingham around 9:30 and 9:45 p.m. Sunday night. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so if a limousine had parked on Rockingham at 10:22 p.m. Sunday night, you wouldn't have seen that limousine, would you?
I was in bed. Don't know that I was asleep, but I was in bed.
Okay. And if the limo was at Rockingham at 10:39, you would not have seen it?
Same answer.
And you did give a statement to the police in late January, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
And when Mr. McKenna, the defense investigator, contacted you, it was just this past Wednesday, is that right?
It was Wednesday in the latter part of the afternoon.
And that will be March 29?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does the statement there in front of you, the one Mr. Shapiro gave you, indicate the date of your interview?
January 25, 1995.
So you spoke to the police on January 25, and Mr. McKenna contacted you on March 29.
Yes, sir.
Have one moment.
Certainly.
You spoke to the police in January. Did you give them the approximate time in which you were out walking the dog?
Yes, sir.
Did you tell them about the Bronco not being there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Shapiro?
When you were walking your dog, sir, did you see a Bentley automobile driving up Rockingham?
No, sir.
If a Bentley had been driving up between 9:30 and 9:45, were you in a position to see it?
It had its headlights on and was up that far to the corner. I would have been, yes, sir.
You're familiar with what a Bentley looks like?
Yes, sir.
Have you seen a Bentley vehicle at Mr. Simpson's residence?
Yes, sir.
Did you see that vehicle driving up between 9:30 and 9:45?
No, sir.
When were you told by any member of the district attorney's office or prosecution that you would be required to come to court today?
I was asked yesterday to come this morning to meet with Mr. Darden. I did not know that I was going to testify till I got here.
What time were you asked yesterday to come to court?
It was in the morning.
Had you received a subpoena to come to court?
Yes, sir.
And what is a subpoena?
It's a order of the court to appear,
For what purpose?
to testify.
As a witness.
Yes.
So when you got my inquiry to kindly call me back at 8:30, you knew you were going to be a witness today in this courtroom, did you not?
No, I did not.
You didn't have the subpoena.
I had been subpoenaed some weeks ago. I had been told that I was on call, that they didn't know whether they would use me, and that they wanted to have me meet with Mr. Darden, at which time there would be discussion or decision made by Mr. Darden whether, when, and if I would testify.
Now,
I met with Mr. Darden this morning.
You knew court was in session today, did you not?
I think so.
And you know Mr. Darden's one of the lawyers in this case?
Yes, sir.
And you know he's in court every single day?
I guess he is in court every day. Yes, sir.
And that your wife was told by, at my request, that you were subpoenaed as a witness by the district attorney for today? She told you that, didn't she?
I'm sorry, I didn't follow the question.
Didn't your wife tell you yesterday that you were going to be a witness in this case today?
No, I don't think my wife told me that.
Well, sir, as a lawyer, having received a subpoena, being put on call, being notified that you were to come to court, and to see Mr. Darden, who has been in court every day since this case has begun, did you come to the conclusion that you were going to be a witness in this case, sir?
I thought there was a chance that I would be. I did not know that I would be a witness today.
And knowing that, you still did not return my phone call, did you?
I received your phone call, sir, at 8:15. I had been in bed much of the day, and I thought at that point that there really wasn't incumbent upon me to call you back.
And I also...
I did make myself available here to you this morning.
And I also told you this morning that if you were not feeling well, that we would have no objection to recessing this case and you coming back when you were feeling fine. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
And at that point in time, you said you'd like to talk to Mr. Darden, didn't you?
Yes.
And I was never given the opportunity to talk to you until you took the witness stand. Isn't that correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I don't...
Objection.
Sustained. Rephrase the question.
Did you allow me to talk to you after that conversation?
Mr. Shapiro, I was sitting there. I expected that you would come back. You didn't. I talked with Mr. Darden about whether or not he was going to put me on now or whether I should come back later.
And what did Mr. Darden tell you?
He said he wanted to put me on now.
And did you tell him that you were feeling ill and that you shouldn't be put on?
I told him I didn't feel particularly well.
Did you tell him you'd rather not testify today? You'd rather take Mr. Shapiro's suggestion and come back when you were feeling better?
I'd rather not testify at all.
Mr. Darden, anything else?
Mr. Kell, I have nothing further, sir.
Mr. Kale, thank you very much, sir. You're excused.
Thank you.
All right, let me see counsel without the court reporter, please. What will be presented to you during that phase of the trial, since we're going to be shifting gears here. I anticipate that will take me a couple hours to do, so I'm going to cut you loose for the morning session. Please remember my admonitions to you. Do not discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions about the case, don't conduct any deliberations, and do not allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case, and I'll see you back here Monday morning at 9 a.m. All right, we'll stand in recess as far as the jury is concerned. And as soon as they're cleared, we will reconvene for the evidence determinations. All right. Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Your Honor. There was an issue raised by, I believe, Mr. Scheck and Mr. Neufeld concerning the terminology that I used in the Christopher Johnson case concerning a match. And counsel has deliberately misrepresented to this court the import of the terminology and the exchange that occurred in the course of the hearing from the Christopher Johnson case. The unfairness of that is that this court and the publicity that generates from every hearing that we have has now been completely falsified in terms of what actually transpired in court. Counsel now proffers to the court a mere few pages from a transcript seeking to establish the basis of their of the misrepresentation they have made to this court. I would ask that the court refuse to accept the mere few pages they have proffered and insist on the entire transcript.
Ms. Clark, let me, forgive me for interrupting you, but I have a dislike of excerpts from transcripts as well. I've already ordered the complete court file.
Great.
Mrs. Robertson advises me that the complete transcript at my request has been delivered to the court.
Great, thank you, Your Honor. The other point I wish to make to the court in advance
Which means I get to read a whole lot more stuff
yeah, even though, which is exactly, I know what you need to do.
this weekend, yes.
Exactly. You have volumes, I know. And let me assist the court in that regard when you see it. The Christopher Johnson matter was a paternity match. It was a murder case
noted
without
that.
a body.
I noted that.
So when we discussed the issue of a match, the witness said, well, I can't say there's a match because I don't have a known sample from the victim. We have no body of victim. All we have is a blood stain at a crime scene, and we're seeking to establish whether that blood could have been the blood of the son of this father, the husband of this mother or wife, the father of this child, and the sibling of this sister. I mean, so it was a paternity match we were talking about. And that's why the witness was saying, we can't say a match because we don't have something to match it to. We can only say that this blood is consistent with the being a relative of these people in this regard.
All right, Ms. Clark, I don't want to litigate that issue now.
Okay. But it is a totally separate situation from what we have here. It's not the same situation.
In reading the excerpt, enough interesting things came up, specifically the paternity issues and what the test was, that caused me to order the complete file, which
When
I've
would-
done.
Okay, when would you like me to be prepared to address this matter, if ever?
Obviously, we'll have to breach that issue sometime when we get into the DNA
Okay.
testing.
Okay,
But I've got it. I'll look at it. We'll see what's there.
okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Now, the issue is the council, you wanted to have a hearing with regards to the videotape.
Yes, Your Honor, that's true. We can't finish today. We can come back and finish Monday morning if Your Honor wants us to.
No, I'd like to finish today,
Right.
unless you have some other commitments, but let's finish this issue.
No commitments, but let's see what we can do.
All right.
Start to 5 minutes of our time. Trying to point out. We're ready to proceed. I would ask that there are 4 witnesses we anticipate calling. Are they here? Or
They're
are
in a
they-
nearby waiting room.
They're where?
In a nearby waiting room, who would you wanted to call first?
I would like to exclude the witnesses. I call Ms. Atkins first. Atkins.
All right, and while we're waiting, during the course of the examination, Mr. Cole, I think, Mr. Shapiro, you neglected to mark one of your exhibits.
Yes, I did. We have a report, Mark. Photograph that was shown to the witness as
Defense 1067.
Mrs. Robertson, 1067. All right, this is the photograph by Mr. Kale circled the automobile that appears in the lower left-hand corner of the photograph.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, so marked.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Cochran, who are you going to want?
Truth will help with that? I do. Please have a seat to the witness stand and state and spell your first and last names for the record.
David Adkins, David Adkins.
Morning, Mr. Atkins.
Morning.
And what is your occupation, sir?
I'm the principal photographer for the City of Los Angeles,
And by which department are you employed?
the Los Angeles Police Department.
And are you a civilian employee of that department?
Yes, I am.
And for how long have you been employed by the Los Angeles Police Department, sir?
Almost 6 years.
I'd like to direct your attention back to the date of June 13th, which I believe was a Monday of 1994. Did you at some time on that date receive a call to come to a location on Rockingham in the Brentwood area?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell the court who called you at that time and what time did they call you?
I was called by Detective Harrow, and it was probably between about 1:30 and 2:30.
Okay, Detective Harrell called you?
Yes.
And what's his first name?
I don't know.
All right. And
I think it's Bill.
at,
I think it may be Bill.
all right, at that time you were, as I understand it, employed in the photo lab of the Los Angeles Police Department. And what was your title or rank therein?
I'm the officer in charge of this section. I manage the day-to-day operations of the photographic section.
All right. And that existed back in June of 1994?
That's correct.
All right. When you got this call between 1:30 and 2:30, what was the nature of the call and what were you asked to do?
I was called to respond to photograph, make a video of Mr. Simpson's home.
All right. A video of Mr. Simpson's home?
That's correct.
And you got these instructions from Mr. Harrell?
That's correct.
And did Mr. Harrell tell you why he wanted you to make a video of Mr. Simpson's home?
No.
All right. And based upon that call, did you do something?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I responded by trying to locate a photographer. That was a very busy day, and I had to pull somebody from our dispatcher to take him out to the scene.
And do you ultimately locate a photographer?
Would you repeat that, please?
Did you ultimately locate a photographer?
Yes, I did.
And who'd you locate?
Willie Ford.
All right, and he was one of the gentlemen who works in your particular section?
That's correct.
All right. Did you have occasion to go out to the Rockingham residence?
Yes, I did.
And did you go with someone else?
Other than Mr. Ford,
Or the two of you went together?
at that time,
Yes.
no,
Okay, just the two of you went to Rockingham?
that's correct.
Okay. So what time did you arrive at Rockingham, if you recall?
I don't recall, but I think it was probably somewhere around 3:30.
All right, do you have any notes or any reports that were written contemporaneously with your observations back on June 13th, 1994?
No, I don't.
So everything you're testifying about now is from your independent recollection?
That's correct.
You've not been able to refresh your recollection on any kind of documents, right?
Relating to what matter?
As to the time you got the call, as to the time you arrived at Rockingham?
That's
et cetera.
correct.
You're testifying to your memory, is that right?
That's correct.
All right. So your best recollection is that you and Mr. Ford went out to Rockingham together and arrived there at about what time?
Between 3 and 3:30.
All right, and when you arrived there, did you have occasion to meet with any detectives?
Yes.
And were you present when any instructions were given as to what you were to shoot at Rockingham?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that. Who did you talk to, first of all?
When Mr. Ford and I first arrived, we were met by Detective Harper, and he explained that they wanted an overall of the exterior and interior shots. And then he handed us off to Detective Harrow.
All right, so your first conversation was with Detective Harper. And what did he say about the exterior shots he wanted you to get?
Nothing specific. He just requested they wanted general photographs of the exterior of the home.
All right, when you say photographs, did he want a video of the exterior of the home?
That's correct.
And was Mr. Ford in your presence when those instructions were given?
I'm not sure.
You recall that you were there?
Yes.
And would you assume that since Mr. Ford was going to do the shooting, that he was also there to hear this?
Probably. Yes, I would assume he would be there somewhere.
And then after your initial conversation with Detective Harper, you then were turned over to Detective Harrow, H-A-R-O, right?
Correct.
And where was Harrow when you first talked to him on that date?
I don't specifically recall, but I think it was outside the front door of Mr. Simpson's home.
Did you have a conversation with Detective Harrow?
Yes.
And who was present during that conversation?
To the best of my knowledge, it was just Mr. Ford and myself.
All right, and again, tell us about the conversation with Mr. Harrow.
It was a reiteration of the first instructions that they would like to get videotape of the exterior as well as the interior of the home.
All right. And any other instructions at that time?
No.
Were you told at this point why you were doing this? Why were you shooting? Why were you about to videotape the Simpson home?
I don't recall if specific instructions were given to us as to why we were photographing it. My understanding as to why we were photographing it was just to document the way that the home looked at this point in terms of what vehicles are there, what landscaping is there, and on the interior, what items are sitting where in the home.
Was it kind of a record of inventory?
Pretty much, yes.
And did you also were you also told that you wanted to make a record of everything seized by the police pursuant to a search warrant?
No.
Did you not indicate that this morning? That was one of the things that you indicated that that was your impression?
No.
You did not indicate that in the conversation this morning?
No.
Did you indicate this morning that one of the purposes of your doing this video was for civil liability purposes?
That's correct.
Tell us about that.
There have been cases in the past when police officers have had an opportunity to enter a home or had an occasion to enter a home when claims have been made against the police department, such as things were missing, there was an expensive vase there, things of that nature, things were ruined. What we like to do is come in and document the condition of the home at that time so that if it was ever needed again, we could show that that was there or was not there.
All right. So that's the civil liability aspect. Did you also indicate this morning that one of the purposes of your shooting the video was to help the detectives to see where items were recovered?
No, I did not.
All right, you had a conversation this morning with the gentleman to my immediate left here, Mr. Shett and Mr. Neufeld, is that correct?
That's correct.
After you talked to them, did you have occasion to talk with some member from the district attorney staff this morning?
No.
You've not talked to anybody from the DA's office?
When you say talk to them, more than say hello
Yes,
or
I mean,
casual conversation?
Sorry, talk to them about your testimony at all?
No, I did not.
Okay. So do you have a recollection that you indicated this morning that you said to Sheck and Neufeld that your recordation, the video recordation, was to help the detectives see in the future where items are recovered?
No, I did not.
All right. Second Yard. Did you ever indicate to either Messrs. Sheck or Neufeld that you wanted to make a video record? So if things weren't seized and you wanted to go back at a future time and seize them, you'd have an actual record of where these things were. Did you ever indicate that?
I may have said something along those lines.
Or what was your understanding back on June 13th with that regard?
The reason that we photographed the inside was, as I stated, mainly was for the civil liabilities issues.
Yes.
Sometimes if a detective is reviewing this videotape and notices something else, they may want to revisit that location.
All right. So provide some help for the detectives in later search warrants if there's the B1 or where things are in the residence, right?
There's a possibility that the tape could be used in that way, yes.
All right, sir. Now, you've had occasion to see that tape, have you not?
I have not seen the tape in its entirety, no.
Did you see it being shown at least partially this morning?
Yes, I did.
Is that the first time you've seen it?
Yes, it is.
Since June 13th?
That's correct.
All right. And the man who actually shot the tape, as I understand it, is Mr. Willie Ford, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. He's here this morning also?
He is.
Do you remember what kind of camera Mr. Ford was using on that date?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that
Do you
question?
remember what kind of a camera Mr. Ford was using on that date on June 13th?
Yes, it was an RCA VHS camcorder.
Camcorder. And is there a time and date on that particular camera?
Yes, there is.
And prior to this date of June 13th, 1994, had you had occasion to video other crime scenes in your capacity in the photo lab at the LAPD?
Personally video myself?
Or, no, been present when they've been down to your lab, had occasion to do that?
Sustained rephrase question.
That's true. There have been other occasions when individuals who work for you, in the lab of the LAPD, have been asked to video crime scenes.
Yes.
And how many occasions in the last year?
Fewer than 6?
And have you had occasion to go on any of those video shoots?
Yes.
And under what circumstances does the LAPD use those video shoots at crime scenes?
I would really have no knowledge as to how those are used.
All right, but fewer than 6 meaning how many? Your best estimate.
That's a pretty close estimate, fewer than 6.
But what does that mean, though, fewer? Is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
All right, 4.
What's your best estimate? 4?
4.
All right. And how many of those 4 had you been out on?
2.
And you don't recall any particular reason why those 4 were chosen, or there were video shoots on those 4?
We were requested to respond with video, and that's the reason, as far as my level is concerned, that we videotape those.
Would I be correct in assuming that back in June of 1994, you did not respond to every crime scene in Los Angeles to video shoot, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you ever, in connection with this case, ever go to the Bundy scene and do any video shooting?
I went to the Bundy location. We did not do any video.
And why didn't you do it there?
We were not requested to do so.
And so was there a detective in charge at Bundy when you got there?
Was there a detective in charge?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who was that?
The person that I spoke with was Lieutenant Rogers.
Okay, Lieutenant Rogers, and he never asked you to shoot at Bundy?
That's correct.
Why were you over there?
I was there to relieve Dieter Rokar, to have a relief for Gary Goodwin
And
out to that scene.
does Rokar work in your unit?
Yes, he
You
does.
supervise him?
That's correct.
And did Rokar have a video camera with him that morning when he was at
We're
Bundy?
kind of far afield on this issue.
No, I'm almost right.
Well, we've got about 8 questions on Bundy that's irrelevant to this issue.
Right. Allow me just this.
2 more.
Thank you.
This is in the way of discovery, I'm
Certainly,
sure.
no, not exactly, Your Honor. Let me link it up. With regard to Rokar, did he have a video camera that morning?
No,
at
he
Bundy?
did not.
All right, but he did work for you at that point.
That's correct.
All right, and there was no shooting of Bundy.
No video shooting?
video shooting of Bundy.
That's correct.
Well, I have nothing further of Mr. Atkins at this point, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just briefly, Mr. Atkins, is there a policy of the Los Angeles Police Department, which you're familiar with, which allows detectives at their choice to either have still photos taken or videotapes taken of locations where search warrants are executed?
I don't know of a specific policy, but that is my understanding.
And what is your understanding with regard to search warrants being executed and possible civil liability? Do you have one in that regard?
In terms of shooting video and photographs?
Yes.
I know that they're highly desirable
Why is that?
for purposes after the fact, as I explained before, to show the condition of the residence and the condition of art objects that may or may not be there.
And was that your understanding of the purpose for your presence at Rockingham on that particular occasion, was to document the location of items and what those items look like in case of future civil liability?
That's correct.
When you were at the Rockingham residence, accompanying Mr. Ford, who is the one who actually took the videos, was there a police detective with you?
At Rockingham?
Yes.
Yes.
And who was that?
That was Detective Harrow.
And are you aware that the lead investigators in this case are Detectives Van Adder and Lang?
Yes.
Were they there at the location when you were there?
At that time, for the time the video was taken,
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Do you have any recollection of seeing them or not?
At that particular time?
Yes.
No.
Did Detective Harrow, who accompanied you while the videotaping was taking place, direct you to videotape blood drops on the driveway?
No.
Did he direct you to videotape a pathway along the south portion of the residence?
No.
Did the videographer basically appear to be pointing his camera at objects, including objects of value within what may be called a trophy room at the location?
Overruled.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Did the videographer appear to be pointing the video camera at objects within the location of, including those of value, such as the objects within the trophy room?
Yes.
So it was your understanding that this video was to be taken for purposes of potential civil liability in the future, is that correct?
That is correct.
Overruled.
That is correct.
All right, anything more? Mr. Garfield?
Did you indicate this morning to Mr. Neufeld that with regard to the 4 other crime scenes that your unit had been asked to video, that you sometimes did it where the detectives thought it would help their case? Did you indicate that?
I may have, yes.
All right. And were you asked to shoot blood drops in the foyer of the Simpson residence that day?
Not specifically, no.
Did you shoot that?
Again, I was not the cameraman, but I would say that those drops may have been in the video, but specific evidence was not to be photographed.
Let's see. And you were aware, were you not, that Detectives Van Adder and Lang were the co-lead investigators on the Simpson case, weren't you?
That's correct.
You knew that day, right?
I'm not sure I knew that day.
You knew it at some time shortly around that time, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And you knew that Mr. Harrow and Mr. Harper both worked in robbery homicide, did you not?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very kindly, Your Honor. That's all I have for this witness.
So let's, all right, Mr. Higgins, thank you very much, sir. Mr. Ford?
Yes, ma'am.
Please have a seat in the witness stand. The statement spell your first and last names for the record.
My name is Willie Ford, Jr.,
Mr. Ford, what is your occupation, sir?
photographer for the city of Los Angeles.
And for how long have you been so employed?
13 years.
I'd like to direct your attention back to the date of June 13th, 1994. You were employed by the Los Angeles Police Department at that time as a photographer?
Yes, sir.
Did you receive a call to go to some location on that date, the afternoon hours of that date?
Yes, sir.
What time do you receive a call, sir, on that particular date?
I don't know the exact call, but it was afternoon.
All right, did you
Sometime
tell?
in the afternoon.
We had occasion to speak with you earlier this morning, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And at that time, did you indicate to us that you believed you received a call somewhere around 1:30?
Yes, I did.
And after you received this call, were you asked to go to some location?
Yes, sir.
And where was that?
On Rockingham.
Okay, and that's in Brentwood area?
Yes, sir.
And did you go to the Brentwood area accompanied by some individual?
Yes, sir.
And who was that?
That was my boss, David Atkins.
It's the man who just preceded you, understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. And did you have some instructions when going to the Brentwood residence on Rockingham?
Yes, sir.
What were your instructions, sir?
To photograph Mr. Simpson's property, any and everything from his cars, lawn furniture to pictures on the wall,
You were to photograph everything you saw, is that correct?
everything.
And by the way, who gave you those instructions?
I don't know the exact names.
Well,
The detectives in charge of the scene.
okay. Detectives in charge of the scene?
Yes.
Would the name Detective Harper
Yes.
be one of those individuals?
Yes, sir.
Is that an African-American officer?
I don't know.
All right. What about Detective Harrell, H-A-R-O? Was he one of the ones?
Yes, sir.
We talked to you? All right. And your instructions were that you were to shoot any and everything on the Simpson residence. Is that
Yes,
right?
sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And what time did you arrive at the Simpson residence? Again, your best recollection.
Approximately about 2 o'clock, I think, 2 or 3 o'clock.
Okay. Somewhere about 2 o'clock or thereafterwards. And when you arrived there, did you follow these instructions and start to shoot the video?
Yes, sir.
And how long were you there? If you got there around 2 o'clock, how long were you at the residence?
I would say approximately an hour and a half.
So if you got there at 2, you'd be finished somewhere around 3:30 or thereabouts?
Yes, sir.
And were you using an RCA camcorder of some kind?
Yes, sir.
And the tape that you were shooting, how long could you shoot without changing the tape?
I didn't change tapes at all.
So the video that we're talking about here was shot all on one tape.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? And you've had occasion now to see that tape since you shot it. How much tape is there?
Approximately 20 to 30 minutes
All
tape.
right. So you got this 20, 30 minutes of tape over a period of about an hour and a half. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, did you start off by shooting outside?
Yes, sir.
And what did you shoot outside?
Started with the Bronco, panned over to the driveway that's on the Rockingham side, and proceeded to photograph the cars and the yard, front of the house.
What about the house?
Front of the house.
All right. Did you go on the other side, the south side of the house?
Yes, sir. No, not the south side. It would be the north side.
Or the north side of the house?
Facing the house would be the north side.
Did Detective Harper tell you to shoot both the north and south and each side of the house?
No, sir.
So you shot the north side?
Yes, sir.
You shoot any other side?
No, because from my point of view, it was just the house butted up against the fence.
All right, you didn't go down the south side of the residence?
No, sir.
All right. No one asked you to do that?
No.
All right. And how long of this 20 minutes did you spend shooting outside?
I would estimate about 20 minutes.
No. How long? I thought that the entire thing was 20 to 30 minutes. So 20 minutes of that was outside?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is not continuous running.
Okay. And you would shoot, cut off, go to some other location. Is that what is right?
Roger.
Okay, sir. Now, while you were shooting outside, were you being directed what to shoot by one of these detectives who were there?
In the beginning, I was directed to shoot, and then I was basically left on my own until I finished completing all the outside, and then I would come inside and get further instructions.
Can you give us the name of the officer who was directing you at the beginning, sir?
It was the African-American officer. I don't know which name he is.
Let's call him Harper.
Harper? Okay.
Yes. All right. And so he told you what to shoot, and then he let you go on your own. Is that right?
Right.
Was Mr. Atkins anywhere near there at that point?
At some points.
Now, with regard to prior shoots, had you had occasion to ever shoot any of the crime scene before this date of June 13th?
Yes, sir.
When was that in relation to June 13th?
I would say approximately 3 months earlier.
And was that a training session for you?
Yes, sir.
And you've been trained at the earlier situation, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
This is the first time you did it on your own?
This is the first time that it was done by the request of the detective.
Okay, on your own.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, after you concluded shooting the exterior, you had occasion to go inside, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And once inside, were you directed what to shoot by a particular detective?
Yes, sir.
And was that Harper or was that another detective?
Another detective.
Is the name Haro, H-A-R-O?
I think
seem
so.
Similar? And what did Mr. Haro or Detective Haro tell you with regard to what you should shoot?
To photograph everything inside of the house, including pictures on the wall.
Did you try to do that?
Yes, sir.
And that took up the balance of what we now see on the tape, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you would shoot and then cut off and move to other locations, is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
But did you try to recover, did you try to shoot everything that appeared out in the open?
Yes.
So you'd have a complete record?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your understanding as to why you were doing this?
Just in case there were some items of Mr. Simpson's that was very valuable missing, LAPD wouldn't be accused of taking anything.
You wanted to make a complete record, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether or not the officers there, the detectives there, were still searching at the time you were doing the shooting?
I'm aware that they were doing some type of ongoing investigation. I wasn't really paying attention.
All right. You don't know if you didn't see anybody searching through doors while you were there,
No.
did you? All right. So you did your shoot. And by the way, I want to very briefly, Your Honor, if I can, ask to show Mr. Ford a portion of the video at the appropriate time.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ford, let me skip ahead for a moment. After you finished and concluded this video, what'd you do with it next?
We took it back to the photo lab at Parker Center.
And when you say we, you mean you and Mr. Atkins?
Yes, sir.
And what'd you do with it that date on June 13th?
Mr. Atkins told me he locked it up in the confidential file in his office.
All right. Did you have occasion to give that video tape to someone on June 14th, 1990?
Yes.
And who was that?
I think it was Detective Harrell.
All right. Was it Haro or Looper?
I think it was Harrell.
I think it was Haro. The man who gave you the instructions the day before?
Yes.
All right. And where'd you give it to him? Where'd you give him the
Down
tape?
on the third floor, Parker Center, robbery homicide.
All right. Was that the last time you saw that tape?
Yes, sir.
And between June 14th, 1994 and today, had you ever had physical possession of that tape from that time?
No, sir.
You gave him one tape, one copy?
One copy.
All right, now, with regard to the things that you were to shoot inside the residence, I'd like to just show two brief things and ask him a question, Your Honor, if I might. You see the video there?
Yes, sir.
And this is being shot by you, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
By the way, there was, well, I'll get to a particular point and ask you a question. Now, right there, you see that, did you shoot that glove there by a picture of a young lady there?
Yes, sir.
Was that glove placed there before you got there?
I don't know if it was placed. It was there.
All right, can you back it up?
For reference purposes, could we note that the time displayed on the video is 2:50 with the latest?
Yes.
It says 2:50 p.m., 6/13/94, we stop it there. That is the way a glove appeared there, but the photograph of the young lady at the time you shot it, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did anybody tell you to shoot that?
No, sir.
All right, that was just out there in that condition?
Yes, sir.
Now, with regard to this RCA camera that you had, it had a viewfinder in which you could look and see the time that you were actually shooting, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the date?
Exactly.
So you could look and you see there was 2:50 p.m. on June 13th, is that right?
Yes.
All right. All right, we're going to fast forward. Shooting the glove, was the detective with you at that point?
He might have been. I don't know.
Do you recall him saying anything to you as you were shooting that glove?
No.
You don't recall him saying keying on the glove at all? You don't recall?
No.
All right. Find the setup portion in just a second. All right. Now, this, you've described for us that this tape that you shot was given to somebody at robbery homicide on the third floor of the LAPD on June 14th. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then when's the first time you saw this videotape?
This morning.
And where'd you see it?
At robbery homicide.
Before you came over to court today?
Yes, sir.
All right. And who else was present while you were looking at the videotape?
I think Detective Harrell and my OIC David Atkins, and I don't recall anybody else.
And that was all this morning at what time?
Approximately 7:30, 8 o'clock.
All right. You also shot, you went upstairs in the interior of the residence and you shot photographs or a video of the bedroom of Mr. Simpson. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And in doing that, did you make an effort to shoot everything that was out there in and around that bedroom area?
Yes, sir.
You shot what was on the bed, right?
Yes.
Shot what was on the floor, if anything?
Yes.
All right. And so you tried to give a complete record again of shooting any and everything. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I want to show you some video if I can. All right. This is the bedroom area. Is that correct? Do you recall that?
Yes.
Best you can recall, you're shooting at 3:13 p.m. on June 13th in the bedroom, right?
I understand the time is off about an hour.
I'm asking you what your understanding was at that time. 3:13 p.m.?
I paid no attention to the time. I was too busy concentrating on getting the images.
But you see the time, 3:13 p.m.?
Oh, yes, sir.
You see that time? Now you shot what was on the bed there, is that correct?
Yes.
These things were out in the fashion that we see them there in that photograph there at 3:14
Yes, sir.
p.m.? You went inside his closet and shot there also, right?
Yes, sir.
Shoot any luggage in that particular closet, do you recall?
In viewing the tape this morning, I think I did see some luggage.
Those weapons there, were they taken out were they in that condition out there like that when you got there?
Everything I videotaped was out already.
You know who moved it out there?
No, sir.
Was Haro still with you at this point, or one of the detectives with you at this point?
No, I'm by myself at this point.
You're on your own?
Yes, sir.
Shooting any and everything?
Yes, sir.
Like I saw you in the mirror there. You see yourself?
I missed that one.
Back up just a moment. With regard to the in the bedroom area, did you see a rug of some kind in the bedroom area before the fireplace there that day?
Okay, you're talking about that fireplace to the right there?
No, I'll point it out to you, sir. Go.
Excuse me, I have to take any further questioning along these lines. The court, Mr. Cochran asked leave of the court to ask a couple of questions about the videotape. This appears to be a fishing expedition by Mr. Cochran with this witness on the stand. There's no need to take up this court's valuable time with this type of questioning.
Oral.
I want to stop there. Did you see, oh boy. Back up frame to 313. You see that carpet? See that carpet there, the 3:13 p.m., kind of at the foot of the bed?
Yes, sir.
You take a photograph of that carpet that day?
Just what you see there.
And so just what we see there is what you saw, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You didn't see anything unusual at that point, did you?
No, sir.
And you tried to capture everything that was out there that was anything, right?
Exactly.
So what we see here with regard to the carpet, we'll back it up and let you see it, is what you saw that day, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, back it up and then move forward.
Mr. Cochran, in presenting this to me, bear in mind, I've seen this thing completely end to end 5 times.
Five times now here? Okay, well, I will bear that in mind and move right ahead. Just want to conclude this point.
All right.
Well, you're a quick study, so. Okay, move forward now, move forward. So you pick up everything that you see there on the carpet at that time, is that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
You tried to show everything, all right? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Harris. Now, you started to say something, and with regard to the time, when was the first time anyone told you that the time of the tape might be off? Was that today?
No, that was, I think about 2 days ago.
And who told you that?
My OIC, David Atkins.
David Atkins? And you hadn't seen the tape at that point, had you?
No, sir.
So that we're clear, however, you got the call about 1:30, you got out there sometime around 2 o'clock, is that right?
No.
That's
Sustained.
You got out there at what time?
According to the sign-in log, is around a little bit after 3.
Well, did you say earlier you got there between 2 and 3, sir?
You asked me what time that I got there.
Yes.
That's the time I thought I got there.
Between 2 and 3, right?
Yeah.
All right, and then you then proceeded to shoot for an hour and a half at most, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so that would comport with the times you saw in that video. Is that correct, that you were shooting sometime after 3 o'clock? Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Oral.
Comports with the times you saw, right?
Yes.
You never tried to change the time that particular day, did you?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you very kindly. I have nothing further this witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis?
Just briefly, Your Honor, Mr. Ford, when was the first time that anyone asked you about what was recorded or why you recorded that videotape on that occasion?
About 2 days ago.
So it's been some 8 months, 8.5 months now since you'd had occasion to even think about having taken that videotape back last June?
Yes, ma'am.
And your estimation of the time that you took,
Quiet in the courtroom, please.
your estimation of the time that you arrived and that you took particular things shown on the videotape is just based on your best recollection now, 8.5 months later, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you indicated you did not pay attention to the time on the camera itself, is that right?
Exactly.
So you really can't say with certainty any time that you took any particular aspect shown on that videotape, can you?
No.
Nothing further.
This, with regard to the time aspect, sir, you're aware that this was an important video to document what was going on, isn't that correct?
Yes.
And you were doing the best you could, is that correct?
Yes.
To shoot any and everything, right?
Yes.
And if you had seen or were aware the time was off, you could have changed that or corrected it, isn't that correct? Isn't that correct?
I would say yes if it was of some concern, yes.
Yes, all right. Thank you very kindly. Detective Looper, here.
Mr. Lewis, anything more?
May I have just a couple of questions outside the scope of my initial cross, just briefly?
Briefly.
Did any detective or anyone else direct you to take photographs, or videotapes, I should say, of blood drops in the driveway at Rockingham?
No,
Did anyone ask you to video the pathway that runs between where the house butts up against the fence on the
No.
south side? Did anyone indicate to you that this was going to be used by the district attorneys in the case?
no,
And was your understanding that this was taken to document the valuable items that you saw throughout the house?
It's cross-examination.
Well, that is.
I'll allow the question.
And was it your understanding that your purpose in taking this videotape was to document the valuable items that you saw throughout the house, including the Heisman Trophy and other items of value, so that the Los Angeles Police Department would have that on record as having existed then in case of a later lawsuit? Was that your
Yes.
understanding?
Testify.
Was that your understanding, sir?
yes,
Thank you.
And when you took that picture of that glove there, you thought that was a valuable object, did you?
Counsel, I saw what was on the
Okay.
table there.
All right, well, all right, very well. Then.
It looked like a Tiffany-style lamp and a few
Well, there
other.
was also, he zoomed in on the glove.
Just for the record, did you notice that there were valuable items on that table, like a lamp or so forth, in
Yes.
addition to the
Ms.
glove?
Lewis, you should also bear in mind that I've seen this 5 times.
Just for the record, Your Honor, thank you.
One last question, Your Honor. Did you shoot some reported blood drops in the foyer area of the residence?
yes,
Somebody told you to do that?
no,
You just did it on your own?
yes,
Again, shooting everything you saw, right?
yes,
Okay. And you, with regard to the purpose, your purpose for being there, you've told us your purpose was to shoot any and everything at the directions of the detectives who told you to do this, right?
yes.
All right, thank you, sir. Looper, Your Honor.
Detective Looper, thank you very much.
Okay.
Solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please take a seat. The witness stand and state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Adalberto Luper. First name is spelled Adalberto. Last name is Luper.
Good morning, good afternoon now, Detective Looper.
Good afternoon, sir.
You are one of the investigating officers assigned to this case, are you not?
Orwell.
Yes, sir.
She's getting pregnant. And in that connection, back in June, on or about June 13th, 1994, were you one of the officers or detectives from robbery homicide assigned to the Simpson case?
Yes, sir.
Did you at some point on or about June 14th receive a videotape that was shot of the Rockingham residence, sir?
Yes, I did.
What time on the 14th did you receive such a tape?
It was in the morning sometime. I don't recall the specific time.
Your Honor, at some point I should mark this tape. It's over there now, so we'll reserve a number so I don't forget to mark it. And as defendant
1068.
Defendant's 1068. So you received, and you've seen the tape this morning, have you not?
Yes, sir. I have.
Okay, it's about a 20, 30-minute tape. Defendant's 1068, you received,
Orwell. Proceed.
you received this tape sometime on the 14th in the early morning hours?
That's correct. It was in the morning. Yes, sir.
Do you remember about what time it was?
They have to be anywhere between 8 and 10, somewhere in that.
And from whom did you receive this tape?
I received it from, I believe it was Detective Harrell.
From Harrell?
Yeah.
And where were you when you received the tape from Harrell?
I was at Parker Center, room 321, at my desk.
And when you received it in room 321 at Parker Center on June 14th, in the early morning hours or between 8 and 10, what'd you do with the tape at that point?
I went upstairs to the electronics section and asked to be able to use their VCR and monitor to view the tape.
And did you view the tape at that point?
Yes, sir, I did.
So you saw it on the 14th?
Yes, sir.
It's the same tape we now have here today?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And did you view it by yourself or with someone else at that
By
point?
myself.
All right. After you viewed the tape, what'd you do with it at that point?
I returned down to my office because I was charged with having to write the employee report of the search warrant, and I was informed that it wasn't necessary because the captain had been there and the employee report would have been submitted to him.
Is that Captain Garland we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
And so you did not write an employee report about this item?
That's correct, sir. I did not.
All right. You then you had possession of the tape, Defendants 1068. You had seen it by now. Did you write any reports at all at that point?
No, sir.
You then did something with that tape?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
I put it in my desk drawer.
Okay. Now, at this point, this was your regular desk drawer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, did you ever take that tape up or put it in the so-called Simpson War Room at Parker Center?
Yes, sir.
When was that?
That was probably 3-4 months later.
All right. So at first you put it in your desk. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And about how long would you say it stayed in your desk?
About 3 or 4 months.
And then you had occasion, there was a Simpson War Room developed, and then that's also in Parker Center?
Yes, sir.
And then you had occasion to move it from your desk?
Yes, sir.
When was that approximately?
It would have been around the same time, 3 or 4 months after the video was taken, along with several books that I had.
So it would be July, well, strike that, would be about September, October?
Yeah, roughly September, October, yes, sir.
Again, do you have any reports about the time it was moved from your desk to the War Room area?
No, sir.
All right. But it remained in police custody at that point also?
Yes, sir. It was locked up in a file cabinet.
And by that time, when it was moved to the location in the War Room, the preliminary hearing had taken place, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And by that time, if you recall, had we started picking the jury in this case?
I really don't know, sir.
All right. If it was in October, you were aware of the proceedings that took place here?
I'm aware of the proceedings, yes, sir. But as to the chronology, no, sir.
All right. So you don't know whether it was during pretrial or we started picking a jury at that point?
That's correct, sir.
But you can tell us is within 3 or 4 months of the time you first received it on June 14th, after it was in your desk, it was then moved to a file cabinet in the War Room at Parker Center. Is that
That's correct, yes, sir.
now? Inside the Simpson garage there at Rockingham?
Oh, well. No, sir, it had nothing to do with any testimony.
You just remember that you had this tape at some point?
It was brought to my attention that it was possible that I was going to testify to the execution of the search warrant.
All right.
And during my research of that, photographs, et cetera, I remembered that we did have a videotape.
Now, with regard to this video, there were a number of officers out there on the date that video was shot, right? Correct?
There were several patrol officers. I believe there was maybe 7 detectives, 4 from robbery homicide, 3 from West LA. And I believe Mr. Fung and Ms. Mazzola, and I think the print people had already left.
Just so we're clear, you were there, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And was it your understanding that this video was shot during the execution of the search warrant, or had all items been recovered by that time?
All the items within the residence had been recovered at that time. I knew that there was some presumptive tests that we were still doing, but as far as I was concerned, all the evidence had been recovered, yes, sir.
All been recovered, except for maybe some presumptive tests, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
All right. And just quickly for us, can you give us the names of the detectives from robbery homicide who were present during the taking of this shooting of this video?
It would have been Detective Haro, H-A-R-O, Detective Harper, H-A-R-P-E-R, my partner, Detective LaFall, L-E-F-A-L-L, myself, and possibly Detective Roberts. And that's the only ones that come to mind right now, sir.
All right, and you mentioned something from West LA. Anybody from West LA you recall?
That would have been Detective Roberts from West LA. I would have to check the crime scene log to be sure.
All right. Now, at some point, you were told that you might have to testify in connection with the search warrant?
That's right.
In this particular case here?
Yes, sir.
You didn't testify in any of the pretrial motions, did you?
No, sir.
All right. And when were you told that, and by whom?
I was told that the last week of February of this year, and I believe it was Detective Van Adder who informed me of that.
So in February, Van Adder told you might have testified in connection with the search warrant.
That's correct, yes, sir.
And then you started looking at photographs and videos, and you discovered this tape, right?
Looking at photos, yes, no video, but I realized we had a video at that time, yes.
All right. And when did you bring the fact to the attention of the district attorney's office that you had this video?
That was either March 22nd or March 23rd of this year, sir.
So even though you knew you discovered it yourself back in February?
No, I believe it was probably a week or two after that that I discovered it.
So maybe the first part of March?
Yeah, within the first 2 weeks of March, yes, sir.
All right. And you told the district attorney's office about this, or some representative, on or about March 22nd?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Who was told?
Detective Tom Lang was told, at which time we made a notification to the city attorney's office, and then it was then subsequently turned over to the district attorney's office.
Who in the city attorney's office did you talk to?
I don't recall the name, sir. I didn't make the call.
That would have been in the first week or so of March?
No, that would have been on March 22nd or the 23rd.
But when you first discovered it during the first week of March, who in the robbery homicide division did you talk to about this?
Nobody.
You didn't tell anybody at first?
No.
All right. And when was the first time you told somebody in robbery homicide?
It was it had to either be March 22nd or the 23rd because that was the first time that it was brought up by myself.
And who'd you tell at that point?
Detective Lang.
So any particular reason you didn't tell anybody between the time you discovered the first week of March and March 22nd, 23rd?
No particular reason other than that I didn't at that time feel that it was something that they needed to know because of the reasons it was being held initially.
I see. And what was your understanding for why this tape was shot originally?
It was shot strictly for administrative purposes to record the valuable items in Mr. Simpson's residence and to prevent any civil liability that might arise in the future.
Was there a city attorney on the premises on the date it was shot?
No, sir.
And when you saw that tape, you saw, however, strike that. Were you aware that the man who shot the tape had received instructions to shoot every and anything inside the residence and most of the exterior? Were you aware of that?
My understanding of the instructions were that he was to film the valuables in the residence and to do a cursory filming of the exterior. Yes, sir.
Did you, when watching the tape, did you see the glove on the table that was zoomed in
yes,
on?
sir.
You didn't consider that one of the valuables, did you?
No.
All right, Mr. Cochran, we're going to need to break here.
May we approach this a second? Well, we can approach.
Well, what I anticipate doing at this point, breaking here, I have a 1:30 calendar. I have a white-collar sentencing hearing with 4 defendants at 1:30. So I anticipate recessing this now and reconvening at 8:30 on Monday.
All right, that's fine.
All right. Detective Luper, I'm going to order you to return Monday morning, 8:30. Don't discuss your...